They say every comic has a cover, but not every story stays inside the lines. Some are too dark for the ink, some are too loud for the speech bubbles. My name is Aaron, and this is my collection of things that shouldn't exist. You've reached the bottom of the bin, where the back issues have a life of their own. This is Tales from the Shortbox. Every gamer knows the new game screen, that moment of pure potential where you allocate your points and decide what kind of hero you're going to be. We hunt for the meta, the perfect build that breaks the game. But what if the game is life, and what if the points you spend in the buffer are the only ones you get for the next 80 years? Tonight, we meet Kaelen Shaw, a soul who's tired of the balanced grind. He's going for a glass cannon build maxed out on brains and luck with 0 points left for everything else. He thinks he's found the shortcut to the finish line. Your health is at 0 and difficulty is set to creative. This is the pre-game lobby. The buffer was endless white. No walls, no floor, no sky, just perfect silent nothing. In the center floated a single sleek terminal glowing soft like an invitation. Kaelen Shaw had stood there many times before. An old soul drifted closer, a woman with kind eyes who had chosen balance in her last life. "Kaelen," she said gently, "you're doing it again. Spreading yourself too thin last time nearly broke you. Why not try something balanced this round? A little strength, some constitution, maybe a touch of empathy. You don't have to keep punishing yourself." Kaelen laughed bitterly. "Balanced? I spent 80 years as a farmer watching my crops die in the dust. Another as a soldier bleeding out in some forgotten trench. Another teaching children who forgot every lesson by adulthood. Balanced is just slow, polite failure. This time I'm building to win." Other souls murmured nearby, carefully dividing their 20 points with practiced caution, 3 into strength, 4 into empathy, a handful into luck. Safe, ordinary, predictable. Kaelen stepped up to the terminal. Available points, 20. He didn't hesitate. He dragged the sliders with ruthless precision. Intelligence, 10. Luck, 10. Strength, 0. Constitution, 0. Empathy, 0. Charisma, 0. The moment he zeroed out Constitution, the terminal flashed a glaring red warning across the screen.
Warning. 0 Constitution will result in critical structural vulnerability, chronic pain, immune collapse, and accelerated physical degradation expected. This build is not recommended for long-term play.
He ignored it and dragged empathy and charisma to 0 as well. A second, harsher alert appeared in blood-red text.
Warning. 0 empathy will disable social anchoring and emotional mirroring. Warning. 0 charisma will severely limit relationship formation and retention. Combined with 0 constitution, this configuration carries extreme risk of profound isolation and psychological fracture.
Below the warnings, a small box blinked. Accept risk? With 2 buttons, proceed and rebalance. Kaelen clicked proceed without reading the full terms. The woman's face fell. "Kaelen, you'll feel nothing. You'll break." "Watch me," he said. Confirm the build. The terminal chimed softly, almost regretfully. A tunnel of light opened beneath him. Load in commencing. Kaelen was born. By age 5, he was solving calculus problems that left his teachers speechless. By 12, he had quietly cracked a crypto vulnerability and became a millionaire. By 20, he was the youngest billionaire alive, a reclusive genius who predicted every market swing before it happened. Everything was effortless. At 25, he stood on stage accepting yet another award, the crowd roaring his name. The lights were blinding, but his 10 intelligence had already calculated the exact angle of the spotlight that would make him look most commanding. His 10 luck ensured the teleprompter glitched at precisely the right moment so he could improvise a line that brought the audience to their feet. Afterward, in the private reception, a beautiful woman named Sophia approached him. Her eyes shone with real admiration as she touched his arm. "You're incredible," she said softly. "But do you ever feel anything when you win?" Kaelen looked at her with perfect, empty clarity. Feeling is inefficient. She tried anyway. For months, she cooked for him, laughed with him, cried in front of him when the weight of his distance became too much. Each time she broke down, Kaelen's 10 intelligence instantly mapped the optimal response. The exact sequence of words, the precise softening of his expression, the calculated touch on her shoulder that would de-escalate the situation and keep her in his orbit. He saw the entire dialogue tree laid out like code, every branch, every possible outcome. But his 0 empathy ran the cold cost-benefit analysis in the background. Performing those emotions would require caloric energy, time, and emotional maintenance that yielded no tangible financial or strategic return. The math was simple. She was not worth the effort. So he chose silence. One rainy evening, she stood at his penthouse door, tears streaming down her face. "I loved you," she whispered, "but you're not even here." Kaelen watched her go without a single pang of regret. His mind had already moved on to the next market forecast. Because he had zero constitution, his body was a constant betrayal. During one of his greatest triumphs, closing a multi-billion-dollar acquisition at 28, he sat at the head of a long boardroom table and mathematically dismantled the opposing CEOs. His 10 intelligence sliced through their arguments like a scalpel, while his 10 luck ensured the market conditions aligned perfectly for the kill shot. The deal closed for 9 figures more than anyone had projected. The room erupted in applause and handshakes. No one noticed that Kaelen was sweating through his tailored suit. A migraine hammered behind his right eye like a rusted spike. His joints ached as though he were 80 years old. Every breath felt like glass in his lungs. He had all the money in the world, yet his body punished him for every victory. By 35, Kaelen Shaw owned more than anyone in the history of the planet and felt absolutely nothing. He sat alone in his penthouse one night, staring at the city lights below. The migraine was particularly vicious tonight, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. His back throbbed. His hands trembled slightly from the constant low-grade pain he had learned to ignore. He whispered to the empty room, This is winning?" For the first time, the silence answered back. Decade after decade, the perfect build delivered exactly what it promised. Kaelen Shaw lived longer than any human in recorded history, 112 years, and every second of it was flawless. His 10 intelligence turned every problem into a solved equation before most people finished reading it. His 10 luck bent probability itself. Stock crashes became buying opportunities. Rival CEOs suffered convenient scandals. Even the weather aligned with his travel schedule. The world became a spreadsheet he could edit at will, but the zeros exacted their price. By his late 40s, the migraines evolved into something worse. His body, denied any constitution, began to cannibalize itself. Bones turned brittle as chalk. Immune system collapsed. Every breath carried a low, constant ache that no amount of money could silence. He fired teams of doctors the way other men fire secretaries. They all said the same thing. There's nothing structurally wrong. Your body is simply refusing to maintain itself. He understood. Zero constitution meant zero margin for error. At 60, he was completely bedridden in a sterile, climate-controlled medical suite that occupied the entire top 3 floors of his skyscraper. Nurses came and went in shifts, but he never learned their names. Why bother? His 10 intelligence had already calculated their turnover rate to 3 decimal places. He lay there for 32 years, staring at the same white ceiling, able to derive the orbital mechanics of distant exoplanets in his head, but unable to turn his neck more than 2 inches without a bolt of agony. The only sound in the room was the soft mechanical hiss of the machines keeping his failing organs online. His mind remained razor sharp, sharper than ever. It was the cruelest joke of the build. He could replay every market prediction, every calculated decision, every perfectly optimized choice in perfect clarity, but there was nothing left to optimize. No resistance, no stakes. One night, in his 92nd year, the pain sharpened into something new. His heart fluttered like a dying bird. Kaelen recognized the arrhythmia immediately. He had modeled it months earlier. He smiled for the first time in decades. Finally. With the last of his strength, he reached for the bedside panel and keyed in the override code that would disable every life support system in the suite. No alarms, no calls for help. He had calculated the exact sequence that would look like natural cardiac failure to the medical logs. The machines powered down one by one. The room went blessedly quiet. Kaelen closed his eyes and waited for the tunnel of light. It never came. Instead, a single improbable event unfolded. A junior nurse, one he had never met, had left a half-empty bottle of experimental electrolyte solution on the counter earlier that evening. A 1 in a billion genetic quirk in Kaelen's liver, triggered by the exact chemical trace left in the air from the bottle's open cap, neutralized the arrhythmia before it could finish its work. His heart stabilized. The override failed to register because the nurse, acting on pure instinct, had walked back in at the precise second the final machine shut off and manually restarted the system. Luck had saved him again. Kaelen lay there, eyes wide in the dark, understanding at last. His 10 luck wasn't protecting him. It was protecting the run. The universe itself would warp reality, bend physics, spawn miracles, all to keep this character alive until the clock ran out naturally. There was no rage quit option, no early extraction. He was trapped inside the build until the game decided the session was over. He laughed once, a dry, rattling sound, and the laugh turned into a cough that lasted the rest of the night. The final 30 years were the worst. He lay motionless in the glass box of his own making, mind racing at light speed while his body slowly liquefied from the inside. He composed symphonies he would never hear performed. He solved unsolved mathematical conjectures and immediately forgot them because there was no one to tell. He replayed Sophia's face at the door 1,000 times, calculating every possible alternate dialogue tree that could have kept her there. Each time the math came back the same. No return on investment. At 112, his heart finally gave out for real. No miracles this time. The game had run its course. The tunnel of light opened. Kaelen Shaw woke up in the buffer. The endless white stretched in every direction. The sleek terminal floated before him, glowing softly. The same woman from before drifted nearby, her kind eyes now filled with quiet sorrow. The terminal chimed and displayed his final score. Experience earned, 0. Skill points available, 0. Respect denied, build locked for review. Kaelen stared at the numbers, the horrifying confirmation of the thought that had crystallized in his final moments. There had been no resistance, which meant there had been no work, which meant he hadn't earned anything. I tried to warn you, she said softly. The tunnel of light opened again beneath him. This time there was no character creation screen, no choices, just the default load-in. Kaelen tried to scream, but the light swallowed him. Somewhere in the next life, a completely ordinary baby was born with no special advantages whatsoever. No towering intellect, no impossible luck, no perfect body or effortless charm, just a blank slate, crying in a hospital room while exhausted parents smiled through their tears. And for the first time in 100 lives, Kaelen Shaw would have to play the game the way it was meant to be played. One hard, ordinary, messy, beautiful day at a time. We spend our lives wishing we were smarter, luckier, or more talented. We look at the high rollers and think they've got a better character creator than we do. But Kaelen Shaw learned the hard way that the beauty of the game isn't in the 20-point spread. It's in the experience points earned through the struggle. Kaelen's been wiped back to factory settings, no buffs, no cheats, and 0 safety nets. He's finally traded the sterile god mode for the unpredictable, pulse-pounding reality of a level 1 playthrough. We're filing this one away under hard reset. Keep your health bars full and your saves updated. This has been Tales from the Shortbox.